What's up, guys? My name is Splattercat, and welcome back to the Nerd Castle. Today, we are playing Expeditions Conquistador, and hopefully we'll be able to mash our way through this game, maybe this week or next week, just get it all nice and finished off. But where we had left off, just a quick recap, we had been doing some legwork for the city up north. I forget what it was called. We had to go to a Tenochtitlan tomb and keep an eye on some Aztec envoys for our friends in the north. So let me take a look and get my bearings here. I have the extreme misfortune of having been visiting family for the last couple days. And so, well, it's not unfortunate for me. It's unfortunate for my gameplay capabilities, however, as I don't remember anything that I was working on. Now, as I recall, this was the Tenochtitlan tomb right here, I think. Yes. Okay, so we had quite a lot of legwork to do, but we had just arrived at Tenochtitlan. Tenochtitlan. I don't know how to say that properly, but in any case, let's run into the city and see what there is to do here, because I feel like we're going to find ourselves a lot of adventures as we wander around. Let me make sure that all my personnel are assigned to certain activities, because I know there's been some concern that I haven't been using my guys appropriately. There's a chest sitting. It's a booby trap! They're trying to trick us. Let's go ahead and see what's going on here. This is probably just the market. Long before you reach the settlement, you notice that the jungle is unusually silent. The natives greet you warily, eyeing your saddlebags. Many of the townsfolk look diseased, their skin covered in spots that look suspiciously like smallpox to you. Lovely. That's gonna turn out well. The chieftain, Itzcuintli, is surprisingly difficult to locate. His wife fetches him from the depths of a home which looks marginally less dismal than the others. He is not an old man, but his back is bent and his skin is gray and sickly. It hangs in dark folds beneath his eyes. The children of the sun have returned. You brought this deadly curse upon us, and now you have come to finish the job. We had no hand in what befell you. He coughs violently. Our valley has been cursed ever since your kind first set foot here. Our shaman believes this is a punishment from Mictlantecuhtli. What a name. The goddess of death and the lady of the underworld, but our shaman is a silly old wench who ascribes to the gods what men have wrought. Why do you deserve punishment from the gods? We don't. He briefly wrestles with another coughing fit. Don't cough near me, man. My father, that old fool, gravely offended Mictlantecuhtli by attempting a forbidden ritual to bring his murdered daughter back from the death. Then the pale men came to our settlement, and my father died shortly thereafter. Is there anything we can do to help? His voice is thick with dismissive amusement. Leave. Your people have brought this suffering upon us. We have no need of you. Well, let's see if we can push it. I want to help if I can. Just tell me how. Itzcuintli grumbles, defeated. Well, if you can spare some food for my people, we would gladly pay you for it. Alright, whatever. That's cool. And so, I guess that give us probably access to their market. Okay. Tenochtitlan's market is not impressive. The townsfolk are scattered, probably from the outlying farms, and preside over largely empty baskets. Let's see what we can do here. Oh, they do have a very low supply of food. So what do they have that we can trade for, however? I suppose we can take the opportunity. He has expensive prices. That's a little weak, but we can kind of offset it by... What's that going to cost me? 160? 300 rations. I like to err on the safe side, so I don't really know if I want to give them that much of our stuff. Maybe like 65. Just give them a little bit, because 400 is a lot safer than 300. I mean, all things considered, 300 is a pretty safe number, but I suppose we'll stay where we are right now. Close it on off. What items can we purchase? It says here that 2 exhausted young men are selling torches, and a sick old man has spike traps. So let's buy some torches. We'll haggle. And they're desperate to sell the torches, so we quickly drop the price to 200 valuables. That's gonna work out okay. I noticed we were out of torches earlier on, and while I can craft some, I'd prefer just to buy them since we have a giant influx of valuables. So what I think I'll do is I'll buy a few spike traps as well. See if we can haggle further. Yay, we haggled even further. We are pretty much just taking this guy for everything he's worth. Sucks to be him. Unfortunately, I spent a little bit, but it's okay. We got some more spike traps and things, and other than that, it doesn't appear to be that lucrative to stay in this town, so we'll kill ourselves a peccary right there. Or, I don't know if they're still called peccaries if they're in Mexico. They might be javelinas at this point. I think the species, maybe javelinas and peccaries are the same thing. I don't know. I'm not a biologist. I'm a geologist. Nothing that I look at is alive. Some of the things we look at used to be alive. Little conodonts and crazy little critters, but we can't get to the herb before nightfall. A horrible turn in events. So let's go to our camp menu and get everybody assigned up. Our doctors should be preserving. Absolutely. And my wife is hunting. I'm going to have her preserve, actually. And so 12 out of 21 is being taken care of right now. Anna Vidal is still patrolling. What is he making? Let me take a look here. He's making spike traps. Now, I feel as though I want to make more barricades. So let's make some barricades instead of spike traps. And then we're going to have to assign a few more people to preserving our goodie bits. There we go. So everything's good to go. We have no contextual stuff ready to go. Patrol difficulty's high, but everything else seems to be more or less in order, so we'll camp for the eve. We get 21 rations, nothing else really happens. Our hunters bring back 13 meat, and we've crafted ourselves a barricade. We'll grab some more herbs. It's actually, I think that might be bugged. It's not letting me get to it. There we go. I had to step back and go back forward. Sometimes, in order to get yourself right back to where you need to be, you need to backstep a little bit. I think Dumbledore had something about that in a movie, didn't he? But anyways, let's go down to... Ooh, looks like we got a little farmstead here. Was this marked on the map? Oh, it was. It was a point of interest. Aztec Farms. What is that? A Spanish camp? Oh, really? Maybe we should double... I wonder if there's going to be a pass right here. I may actually go back up and check that out. I can't remember if we stumbled across that in the last episode, actually. My memory is failing me, as it so frequently does. My memory is just always piloting the failboat. But let's see what we can do here at the Aztec Farms. A fairly large area along the northbound road from Tenochtitlan has been cultivated into farmland. It doesn't look very fertile, but apparently it yields enough to cover most of the city's consumption. The farmers here look tired and weary, yet they turn out to be friendly enough when approached, and some of them offer to trade their surplus food for medicine or valuables if you need it. Alright, so they have preposterous prices. God, lovely. And so I don't think I'm actually going to buy anything here. If their prices are preposterous, these numbers right here tend to be a fairly good indicator for whether you should be trading there or not. Let me cut up to the north and see if we can make it through the mountains here, because if there is a gap in the mountains up in this area, I think we should be able to get back around to that Spanish camp. And since we found the helmet of the guy we originally came looking for, or at least the guy who was accompanying Paulik earlier on, I think we probably have a decent chance of finding something that we want. I'm not going to preserve. I'm going to have her do herbalism this turn, make sure everybody's doing something. My wife is not working, so what we'll do... So let's assign her to hunting, since it's actually patrolling is easy right now. Let's add her to the patrol. I may actually make her a secondary patrol later on, because I like patrolling. It's free stuff that you get every day, so why not mess around with it a little bit? 1 meat spoils during the night, we get 13 medicine, and everything else is going according to plan, so nothing to worry about there. I prefer to stay on the path here rather than getting sidetracked about anything. Yeah, I think we can make a cut through right here. Excellent. So that's going to save us a little bit of time. I was a tad worried we were going to have to go all the way around the mountain pass to get to that Spanish camp that I had neglected to take a look at. Let's look at our map and make sure... Can I cut through this forest right here? See, I think they're still going to make me circle around, but luckily I see treasure in the distance. I see the lovely gleam of shinies, which is always something that I'm perfectly happy to go creeping around after, so we'll see what we can get there. Everything went fine. Our hunters were pretty piss poor that night, though. So unfortunately, we're going to have to dig into our rations this eve. Let me see how we can get around to there. So we have to make a full swoopy loop. And I know we're kind of getting out of the way here, but I'm interested in seeing what this Spanish camp holds for us. I don't know if I walked past it in the first place, but in this case, I would very much hope... Ooh, I kind of messed up there. I would very much hope in this case that we can get ourselves squared away, get to that camp, and figure out what happened to the last expedition. Even if there's no one alive there, it'll shed a reasonable amount of light on the storyline, and we can figure out just what in the hell has been going on. So we got some more medicine. Our hunters did poorly once again, so we may have to dip into the rations. Ye old medieval ice cream, or Renaissance ice cream, or actually, we're in the 1400s. We're not quite there yet, but let's see if we can wrangle our way to this Spanish camp. Now, if I'm messing up and I'm going back to the gravestone here, I think we're going to have to go through this pass. I didn't see any reasonable way to go through there, so maybe cutting down through here is going to be the way to do it. So let's head west just a little bit, and we're going to keep an eye on the left side of the road. And I didn't want to spend an entire episode wandering around, but the Spanish camp is a fairly large occurrence. That's something that we definitely want to take a look at, if at all we can, because that was part of the reason we were here, is to figure out what happened to that other group of conquistadors. And so let's get our camp pitched right there. There we go. I'm so frustrated with myself right now. I allowed 13 meat to spoil like an idiot, and I know I'm gonna catch it from you guys down in the comments, so don't hold back. Hurl your barbs, hurl your insults. And so let's see here. Heading south, I have a distinct feeling that maybe this was the helmet that I already walked by, in which case that's going to be incredibly embarrassing. Oh no, it's an actual camp. Alright, let's take a look. Let's see what we can find here. You've been engaged in an arduous struggle against the vines and undergrowth of the wilderness for many hours when you finally approach a clearing in the jungle. From the distance, you can make out wooden posts that might be part of a tribal village, but to your surprise, you find traces of a hunting camp typical to the Spanish military. We investigate the camp, and judging from the arrangement of the traces that remain, it was slightly more than just an overnight camp. Trees have been felled to make crude barricades and boardwalks of their wood, and traces still remain in the ground where tents were erected. In the underbrush near the outskirts of the clearing, Anna Vidal spots something glimmering and brings it to you. It's a golden locket inlaid with precious gems clearly created in Spain. We open it up. The locket is slightly hard to open after spending a long time in the damp jungle, but eventually you pry it open. It contains a picture of a very beautiful young woman with the inscription, "To my dear Inez, forever yours, Felipe." Well, I suppose we'll let finders keepers be there. We're not going to throw it into the pile. We'll give it to Anna. Anna gives you a puzzled smile. "Gracias, Capitan. I'll keep it safe." And so I guess that's the only thing that we were taking a look at. The only thing that I can assume is maybe down the line we'll find this Inez, and maybe, actually no, the locket had Inez's name on it, did it not? So maybe we'll find the person who gifted it, and it'll work out in a better light than it will for now. For now it's just treasure, but I'm actually hoping that'll have some kind of contextual use later on, so we'll see what happens. We'll camp for the eve, and our hunters managed to hold down the fort there. In that case, we're back to the city that was all diseased up and covered in smallpox, and hopefully we'll be able to actually get something done in this episode, although I am excited about finding that locket. Believe you me, that actually might be very useful in the future if we can find its owner. Now, if it's just a random piece that's used to add morale to a unit, then I think we'll find ourselves not really being able to justify that huge walk through the jungle, but if it turns out to be useful later, I think it's going to be a justified cause that we applied ourselves to, so we'll hope for that in the future. Let's go ahead and make our camp for the night, and our guards allowed oil to be stolen. We have no more materials left for barricades, it looks like, so I should probably assign Barreto to do something else. Unfortunately, I'm a reactive type person rather than a preventative. But let's take a look here and see what points of interest we have. So there's a point of interest there, and we've got another city. We've got what looks like a large lagoon or a lake to the southeast, and so let's cut in that direction and see what we can find for ourselves. Hopefully we'll get ourselves into a little bit of a rowdy how. I'd prefer to get into some combat during the course of this episode because I found myself just itching to fight when I was back in my hometown visiting family. Not necessarily because I was in contact with my family, but because I was thinking about it, and we don't get into enough combat in this game. I'd like to fight a little bit more, so you may find me being a bit more aggressive as time goes along. And let's assign him to craft some lanterns, because we have a lot of materials, so we'll just keep lanterns going. We get 1 equipment from tribal scouts, we eat the meat, we gain 10 meat from hunting, and we're okay there, and we've crafted ourselves a lantern. I think that's probably one of those wandering merchants that's been up and around recently. Can we interact with anything here? It doesn't look like we can. There's some kind of strange temple here. Maybe it's marked and flagged for later use instead of during the course of this turn. In any case, we do have a city down here, and since nothing is clickable in that vicinity, I think we should come over this way, and we will check out this Aztec. It looks like he's got somewhat like a jaguar warrior helmet or something going on, and so let's see if we can get this sorted out. On an island in a large lake at the bottom of a valley, you reach Tenochtitlan. From the distance, you can already tell that the city is incredibly rich, with a beautiful temple district, the pyramids of which rise proudly above the canopy of the surrounding forests. We enter the city, and on our way towards the long earth causeways that lead across the lake to the island, you are intercepted by a contingent of warriors led by heavily armed soldiers in peculiar eagle costumes. They approach you respectfully but with apprehension. Maintaining a safe distance, barely close enough to communicate without shouting, the most extravagantly decorated eagle warrior addresses you. "Children of the sun, we welcome you to Tenochtitlan. Our great Tlatoani, Moctezuma, I don't even know, Coco, blah, 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 invites you to his palace." That was my rough translation there. Your interpreter leaves the title of Tlatoani in the translation, but quickly adds that it refers to the emperor. Proceed to the city. The greeting party divides in two to allow you passage and forms up behind you as an escort, following you across the causeway into the city. Up close, the city of Tenochtitlan almost defies description. It's as large as any European city you've ever visited, easily rivaling Seville or Cordoba for size. Its towering temples and palaces are richly decorated in blues and reds, and its streets are filled with people who scatter before you and stare as you pass. Nobody mentions, obviously, that we've just walked through a plague-scarred place and we've now just carried it with us into a big city. Your troops are visibly struck with awe by the size and sophistication of the city. You pass through an enormous market bustling with activity, probably twice as large as the market of Seville. The members of your expedition are struggling to take it all in, gaping at the crowds, the buildings, and the sheer enormity of it all. Meanwhile, your feathered escorts are clearing a path towards the largest and most beautiful of all the palaces, all of the while making sure none of your people strays from the path. Okay, and so we're in. We've been granted entrance, and so we've got several large, well, it looks like a singular large spinning hoobity-doob right here. That's a technical term. We use that all the time. Just when you're engineering, just general builderies, just be like, yeah, I got 3 hoobity-doobs. But then we will talk to them, I guess. The Palace of Tenochtitlan is really one of the several places in the city, but is distinguished by being the grandest and not coincidentally the one currently in use as the residence of the city's Tlatoani Moctezuma, the Younger. So we meet with Moctezuma. I'm just going to call him by his first name since obviously he's not here to hear it. You are led through the palace to a large and beautiful garden where Moctezuma himself seems to be conducting some administrative business with a handful of nobles. You are respectively instructed to wait at the entrance to the heavily secured garden until Tlatoani is ready to see you. The great Moctezuma appears to be about 40 years old and of healthy height and build, light skin for an Aztec. His hair is short and his beard is well trimmed and thin. He carries himself with the air of one who would expect, or as you would expect of a great ruler, and he greets you in a respectful and genial manner. Honored guests, you are in the presence of Moctezuma Tlatoani of the Aztec Empire. Tell me, by what name would you be known? And we're going to be respectful and tell him our name, and he receives our name with a dignified nod. You are not the first child of the sun who has come to my lands, but you are the first of your kind to enter Tenochtitlan. As such, you should be a guest of honor in my palace for as long as you desire. Hell yeah, that's how we do it. We're going to get our party on right here. We're going to party like a rock star. And so at this point, Julio Barreto leans in and whispers in your ear, I believe it would be beneficial for diplomatic relations if we offer the emperor a gift of some kind. Actually, that's a pretty good idea, as from what I understand, most rulers that give an audience back then, even European rulers, often expected you to bring a gift. Just one of those things that's like, here's this, I respect you as king. And so I'm going to give him equipment because we have a lot of equipment. And so we do that. It looks like, okay, nobody was grumpy. We order our servants to bring forth a lockbox of treasures from your caravan and present it to Moctezuma as a gift. He looks over the spoils with a pleased expression and in turn gets his servants to bring out a chest full of gold and jewelry from his personal collection. The Aztec emperor himself further presents you with a gold disc and a silver disc that you recognize as a calendar of the Aztecs. Yay, we can tell what day it is. That's totally going to help us. And so when the formalities are dispensed with, you and your people are led from the throne room to an adjacent area where you're met by a tall, strong man in his 30s who you recognize from your audience with Moctezuma. Venerable guests, I am privileged to meet you. My name is Quapatl, and I am Laco Chicatl to Moctezuma. And what does that mean? Your interpreter hesitates for a moment, just desperately grasping for a good translation of Laco Chicatl. Quapatl seems to pick up on it as he pauses halfway through his introduction and watches your translator with a wry smile. The interpreter eventually settles on High General, and Quapatl carries on. Our great Tlatoani has appointed me to maintain diplomatic and strategic relations with you and your people. If there's anything more that you desire from us, tell me and we shall discuss it. And so perhaps there is something we can do for you in our position as outsiders, a show of good will towards your empire. Quapatl hesitates. It is not the habit of this empire to ask others to solve our problems. Nevertheless, our offer still stands. His eyes narrow, but a knowing smile plays at the corner of his lips. How do you expect to be compensated for your aid? We wish to establish a good working relationship. He raises an eyebrow, intrigued. He regards you in the manner with which one would look upon some absurd and unfamiliar fairy tale beast. There is one matter where we might benefit from the assistance of outsiders. Addressing this would certainly establish you as a worthwhile ally to us, which will lead in other ways to cementing the alliance between our peoples. I had to paraphrase there because I totally entered that sentence in the wrong way. It looks like he's got ear gauges. It took 500 years, but it's finally come back into style. What can I do to aid our Aztec allies? To the west lies an Aztec settlement called Cuautitlan. They have neglected to send regular shipments of food to Tenochtitlan. The people of Tenochtitlan depend on these shipments from the outlying farming communities to survive. Cuautitlan is part of the heart of our empire, and if we move against them militarily, it would have undesirable political repercussions. Then we will visit. Let's go look into it. He nods sternly. I believe that you will find the matter as straightforward. Return to me when everything is resolved. Quapatl thanks you for your time and calls in 2 eagle warriors to escort you out of the palace. He's chuckling quietly in disbelief, if you're not mistaken, as you leave. Wow, there are a lot of places to click, and so let's see what trouble we can get ourselves into here. The marketplace is found in Tlatelolco, which turns out to be a sister city that lies right next to Tenochtitlan, only on the northern part of the island. Its market is enormous, twice the size of the city of Seville, and brimming with food and trinkets. And so let's see what we can find here. We'll browse the artisan stalls. They've got net traps and spike traps. Don't really need those. They've probably got a lot of things to trade for, and so that's going to work out in our favor as well. Since we've got so much medicine, they've got high supplies of everything, so either way we're going to be trading at a loss here. So I think we'll be okay with a bit more food. However, since I get the sneaking suspicion we're going to have to solve this next quest with a overabundance of food, and there's no reason that we should need hundreds of medicine sitting around. Looks like we've got an event here. As you navigate the narrow streets of the sprawling market, an Aztec man steps into your path. He's dressed in fine clothes with an ostentatious hat and much jewelry adorning his upper body. He speaks slowly, picking his words carefully, evidently with a broad and precise vocabulary, which seems to brush off on your interpreter. Child of the sun, I am honored to be in your presence. I am Matlal. I've been observing you for some time, and it is clear that you have great interest in good business. What is it to you? The path that took you to the great city, did it also take you to the city of Texcoco to the north? I don't think we went to Texcoco. He clears his throat. It is a city on the eastern bank of the lake, northeast of here. It is the second largest city on this land after our own. Continue. I have recently had the misfortune to deal with the commander of the warriors defending Texcoco. He is the most stubborn and entitled eagle warrior by the name of Coyote. This man has made some utterly unreasonable demands of my associates, and lately he has had the audacity to issue threats should we fail to yield to his demands. How does this involve us? I lack the necessary weight to dissuade Coyote from applying further pressure to me and my associates here in Tenochtitlan. My hope is that you, or anyone in your group, will take Coyote out of the picture and bring his shield to me as proof. I'm in possession of a large amount of valuable metals that I might surrender to you out of my gratitude if you were to assist me. Will he not simply be replaced? My contacts in Texcoco tell me Coyote's warriors are growing tired of his selfish crusade. His most loyal subordinates will undoubtedly back him up if he is attacked, but most of his force will be relieved to get rid of him. They will not continue to pursue his goals when he is gone. And so, we're just gonna, let's agree to it. Let's go silence Coyote. We'll come back to here once we get a little bit further, and we'll take a look at our map, Texcoco. Alright, let's go get into a fight before we run out of time here. This episode's gonna be a tad longer in the greater scheme of things, but I'm itching for a brawl, so let's camp on the road here, make sure everybody's working on something. Are there any extra tasks? There are not. And so since we're in a city, we have a good chance of being robbed, but everything seems to have turned out okay. We were unable to hunt anything in the city because obviously it's a city. Unless we're hunting rats and hobos, I don't think we're really going to come up with anything. Let's see what trouble we can get ourselves into. The region surrounding the lake is so well populated that you probably don't recognize Texcoco as a distinct city if you didn't know what it is. It seems like an extension of Tenochtitlan. Aztecs. They've started with suburbs. There you go. Suburbs. Aztec suburbs. Thousands upon thousands of people fill its streets and the crowds part as you move through the city center. We find a warrior, and we ask him where Coyote is. The man stares at you with his mouth wide open, paralyzed, just as he's about to give in to the temptation to push his chest to see if he'd fall over like a statue. He turns and runs off between the buildings. Everyone shrugs. A few minutes later, a tall warrior emerges around the corner, trailed by 5 subordinates. He's wearing the costume of the Aztecs' elite eagle warriors, but it's clearly seen some heavy use and has been repaired in several places with whatever fabrics were at hand. He stops dead in his tracks when he sees you and frowns. His hands move instinctively to the macuatl by his side. He turns and speaks to the warrior from before, but your interpreter hears what he's saying and translate. These are the people who asked for me. The young warrior nods. Coyote scrutinizes you by name. He nods again. Coyote regards you warily, then takes another few steps towards you, never letting down his guard. My name is Coyote, and I am the leader of the Aztec warriors in Texcoco. I am El Gato del Splatter. Why have you summoned me here, child of the sun? I'm here on behalf of Matlal. His face drops so subtly. I expect you have not come here to deliver corn and seeds. I've been sent to make you back off. He nods gravely, and you are set on completing this mission. Well, the fact that he seems kind of depressed that I showed up, I'm going to hear his version. Maybe I'll have to kick somebody else's ass first. He lifts his chin and gives you a sideways look. We should discuss this in private. Please accompany me to our compound. You follow Coyote. He takes you to a compound outside the center of the city where he and his people lives. It's not a temporary accommodation. Military barracks consisting of 4 buildings make a small square. The eagle warrior beckons you into the smallest building, which appears to be his home. He sits on the floor at a low table and motions for you to join him. He looks very tired. Matlal outright asked you to kill me. He was a tad more subtle, but only a little. There was no doubt what he was asking. What did he promise you in return? Gold and iron for weapons. He glances at your breastplate. I've been charged with defending the people north of this city from the Totonac and other enemies. In truth, I suspect the nobles are more worried about the insurrection than invasion, but it doesn't matter. People here are no threat and they don't need defending. They need help. The people who live on the outskirts of the city are sick and they're starving. There are too few healthy people to farm the land, and Tenochtitlan does nothing. My superiors maintain that I have no responsibility towards these people beyond defending them, but that's a load of nonsense. You want Matlal to help you feed them. It's not a solution, but it would keep them going until the disease blows over. With corn and seeds from Matlal and other merchants, we could feed the citizens till they once again could feed themselves. Perhaps there's another solution. Simply taking what we need from the merchants? It would, well, I don't want him to get wrangled up in this whole thing, so my kind-hearted nature, let's give him some food. His eyebrows soar dramatically. How much will you part with? We produce a ration. It may take a while for those starving people to get used to military rations, but this will do. I would say 1 bag of corn and seeds from Matlal would roughly amount to 5 of these rations. Can you spare 300 of them? Yikes, we don't have 300. That's a pretty sizable... I mean, I think that might shift our alignment to a somewhat neutral party to a very lawful good type individual. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. I accept your generous donation. Have your servants deliver the food to our compound, and Matlal will never hear from me again. We could take it from the merchants, that's the thing, and then they said before that it would bring the cause to the Emperor. Let's take the food. Don't think it hasn't crossed my mind. My warriors would never accept such an act, though. He tilts his head slightly and a smile crosses his lips. Would you be willing to assist us instead? I know where Matlal keeps his metals and where his associates keep their seed. With 5 or 6 of your troops, you could break into the storage rooms and acquire both. And you? He frowns apologetically. I wish I could move more directly, but my people must not suspect that I have been involved. And so they'll suspect you when you mysteriously come up with tons of seed. He smiles slightly. That seed will be a donation from you. I will have had nothing to do with it. Alright, let's do it. I wanted to fight. This gives me a fight, and it also allows us to solve a problem. I thank you, El Gato del Splatter. I've grown tired of the apathy of Tenochtitlan's nobles towards the suffering of their people. Though it comes from a most unexpected place, I'm happy to see that there is still compassion in the world. Return to me with the goods, and I will aid you in distributing it. Alright, so we have a mission, we have a goal, and so where we're at, I'm going to break off the episode here, and so my name is Splattercat. Thank you for joining me here in the Nerd Castle for yet another episode of our Expeditions Conquistador LP. I hope you've been enjoying it, following along, and in the next episode it sounds like we're going to have a nice little throwdown at Donnybrook to get our blood going, and we're going to be able to help some people who need it too, which is always something that I like to do in video games. So I'll see you guys next time, take care out there, and I'll see you tomorrow.